During our whole life giving season, we were invited to align and realign our resources of time, gifts, and money with the kingdom values of service, grace, and wholeness in order to consider a joyful and generous giving pattern for the coming year. So a recap of this season. World Communion Sunday was the first Sunday of October and the beginning of our stewardship theme. It was a reminder that communion nourishes us for a life of service to one another, to God, and to all creation, strengthening and empowering us for stewarding well the gifts and resources that God has given to us. The next Sunday, Pastor Jerry preached from Acts 2 and reminded us that we are called to serve God by serving others, transforming our community into concrete works of justice, peace, and service. After that, I invited us to consider what is the good news here at Willow Avenue. And I believe that it's the same as it has been since the very beginning, that this is a place that honors authentic expressions of faith and doubt. And I believe that when we live this story of ours authentically, in a way that is consistent with our calling, our good news to share, the grace of God, the real felt presence of God, becomes more pervasive, more accessible to all. This past Sunday, Bill Braun encouraged us to consider how we value the community of which we are a part, concluding that this isn't just about equal financial contributions, it's about equal participation. And for each of us, that will look a little bit different. But it's participation and celebration for us all. And so that brings us to today, our Whole Life Giving Celebration Sunday. Whole Life Giving is joyfully and freely bringing the first and best of all that we are and all that we have to God. Whole Life Giving helps us to fulfill our mission to follow Jesus Christ daily and radically, to be an inclusive community and to promote an atmosphere of love and acceptance both at home and abroad. And so now we celebrate by hearing your stories of experiencing generosity and wholeness at Willow Avenue. Thanks to Justin Kamikin, Steve and Lisa Portella, and Dean Wanger for reading these stories.
My parents were more generous than I had ever realized. They were not big givers to the church and other charities, but they were generous to their own children. Every few years, they gave $3,000 to each of us. I realize now that was the equivalent of $10,000 for each child in current dollars. That was $40,000. In 1979, my sisters and I each used our $3,000 to buy a home in Fresno for my sister and family to enjoy while they went to seminary. When they returned to Canada, we rented it to the same family until 2 years ago when we sold it to them for below market value. In a way, passing on my parents' generosity. Ken Neufeld.
I appreciate the open-armed invitation from the Dewicks and the Yosts hosting monthly birthday dinners for churchgoers.
I'm grateful for newer and renewed members who are taking leadership roles at Willow Avenue, including Arlene, Gary, and Steve.
My boss from 2001 to 2016, Bob Price, taught me so much about being generous. He would unobtrusively slip a card with cash in it to whoever was going on vacation. He gave to so many people. He also encouraged his clients to be philanthropic. He is a very generous and encouraging giver. Peggy Davis.
I'm thankful for my family, my house, my friends, my cats. Juniper.
Help with rent when I couldn't pay it. companionship when I was alone, support for my family when we were in need, financially, emotionally, and practically.
My parents were great examples of giving of their time, gifts, and money. I remember their lives centered on active church service. Giving of their finances was part of this service. Once, they were even audited by the IRS because the IRS thought my parents were giving more than would be logical or even possible. I have tried to follow my parents' example by being generous with my time and gifts in volunteering in the church. Sometimes when I'm preparing for such volunteering, I don't feel like it. I wish I had said no. But then I experience delightful children, smiling faces, happy learners, grateful recipients, or wonderful conversations, and I'm so glad I did. Being faithful financially and giving generously of what God has given to me has also been a priority. It has given me security to know that God has and will continue to take care of my needs. Joyce Braun.
This church community, which has been generous with encouragement, so many of us have thrived because of this encouragement.
I was being generous by giving someone money to help them out. They said they would pay me back, but I didn't believe them. To this day, I have not been paid back. I never give people money. I felt I was being generous. I wish them the best.
When we first came to Willow Avenue in 2003, newly retired from Denver, Colorado, I presented a children's quilt at the Fall Talent Show, along with my dream of sewing charity quilts. Before we left that day, several people had ordered quilts for their grandchildren and provided the seed money to get started. Bakisa provided the project 42 quilts for an orphanage in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. Many other church women joined me in that first of many other projects, all thanks to the generosity of this church. Nancy Becker.
Thank you to the church for their willingness to help with summer camp fees.
We appreciate the generosity of those who provide a place and food for the monthly birthday meals. It's always a fun time of fellowship and food.
We experienced a lot of generosity when planning and implementing Kids Camp this past June. Thanks to over 20 generous volunteers, there were plenty of leaders to help the children have a fantastic week of learning about God, the Creator, and how we can live together in creation, and of course, to have a lot of fun. I'm grateful for volunteers who are willing to serve. Jerry.
When I was a child, I had two sets of neighbors who were college professors. They always had time to teach me about things, about the mountains, about nature, birds, classical music, and about other cultures. I'm grateful for their generosity of time, which they freely shared with me.
Thanks to Melly, Jerry, Lynn, Bill, and others who give of their time to do pulpit fills when needed. You always have great sermons. You rock.
I have experienced the joy of giving when sharing the Thanksgiving gift cards with our Head Start families and teachers. I have received tearful hugs, had parents return with flowers and thanks after driving away, only when they realized there was a $50 grocery gift card inside the envelope I'd given them. This is something I've experienced only because of your generosity. Thank you, Pastor Audrey.